Greetings, citizens, and welcome back to the Hidden Dagger. Ashes of Creation is once again riding one of its familiar ebbs and flows of development. Anyone who has followed the project for any length of time understands this rhythm well. Excitement, discovery, some frustration, iteration, and then rinse and repeat. This current phase began on a strong note, but many players, myself included, were genuinely pleased with how it launched, with the exception of maybe day 2. There was momentum, a lot of curiosity, and a real sense that we're finally getting our hands on the systems that a lot of us have discussed for years rather than just theorized. And as time stretches on, almost 2 months now, obviously the cracks have inevitably begun to show. I'm not going to discuss too much about the bots and RMT because it's already been talked about ad nauseum. Intrepid is doing what they can to take care of it. It's always a moving target, and name an MMO in history that RMT and bots have truly been defeated. If you can name a game that has completely eliminated RMT, I'd love to hear it. On top of that, of course, we have additional dupes that have been discovered and predictably exploited. These situations always have a negative impact on the economy, see New World, and while fixes and bans were deployed as quickly as they could after a long Christmas break, golden items inevitably slipped through the crack. That being said, I hope Intrepid will soon have an in-game reporting tool and a few live GMs at least on hand to quickly take care of anything that desperately needs attention, like that flying guy in the air or a speed hacking caravan. Asking players to stop farming or grinding and go to some website to report some idiot is not likely to happen, and stuff just doesn't get the attention it needs to quick enough. And that really feels bad as a player when you know that you're doing all the right things to try to gather and harvest and grind and get the money for that weapon, and you see something like that. But we all know it's a reality of large-scale testing. Every exploit, though, uncovered is now one less disaster waiting to happen at launch, so at least that's a positive. Even setting those issues aside, there has been a noticeable drop-off in player activity lately. Not only in my guild, but I'm sure in many of the other guilds. This is not surprising, and it certainly isn't unique to just Ashes of Creation. It happens in pretty much every alpha, or even live MMOs for that matter, as the novelty fades away. What this drop-off really highlights, though, is a core question Ashes still needs to answer clearly. What are players doing at endgame day after day, once the leveling rush slows down? In-game loops are the backbone of any long-term engagement. Yes, this is a sandbox game, but for those players that lack creativity, they're what keep players logging in once experimentation gives way to the routine. Now, some of those in-game loops are already forming in Ashes of Creation. A few of them surprisingly solid already. Sports fishing, for example, is arguably one of the most complete in-game loops currently in the game. The risk versus reward balance, you have the PvP tension, and really good economic incentives all work really well together that feels intentional. Now, for those of you saying, fishing, I don't want to fish, let me tell you something. Look, I'm not good in fishing in real life, and I really never tried it in games. I mean, for some reason, game wardens really frown on me bringing dynamite and a shotgun when I go fishing in real life. So I really don't do it. That being said, fishing I tried in Arcade, and it was so much fun, it hooked me. See what I did there? If you haven't tried it in Ashes of Creation, at least give it a try out in the open sea, and tell me if you don't absolutely just fall in love with it. Now, that doesn't mean it's perfect. Lures still feel a little bit expensive. And Blair, catching a tiny frickin' tuna on a massive lure is incredibly disheartening. Please look at that. And the RNG gods absolutely can ruin my day. Still, the core design really holds up. And if you stay consistent with it and you play the long game, the rewards do eventually come and add up. Where my main concern starts to creep in when it comes to sport fishing is the cost of entry. Ships currently range from roughly 18 gold for the Corsair to 25 gold for the Caravel, but you don't want to use a Caravel for fishing, first off. So, which is a massive investment. And realistically, you could very well lose that ship on your first run. And that's before even factoring in the components like fish tanks or upgraded sails. The same issues apply to caravans to another degree. Total destruction feels overly punishing, particularly in an environment meant for experimentation. I worry that players losing ships and or caravans outright will simply disengage from those systems altogether. Some kind of compromise, maybe insurance, partial recovery, repair downtime could preserve risk while preventing players from being pushed out of an otherwise really compelling in-game loop. Another system that has landed really well overall is the crate system, though it's been at the expense of the caravans. Intrepid is also well aware of what it's done to the caravans, and I'm confident that adjustments are coming. When caravans were fully active, they were incredibly fun. Now, crates still need refinement. One change I would love to see is the mechanics where crafters receive a small percentage, let's say maybe 20% of the crate's value, if it is in fact stolen. Arcades had something similar, and while it didn't eliminate the whole kicking and nuts of getting your crate stolen, it did soften the blow a little bit to keep players engaged without removing the profitability from the thief. The crate system also needs to have a broader commodity system that allows players to counter the oversaturated markets. When one type of crate is oversold, the price crashes, obviously. Players need to be able to transport an alternative good that helps stabilize and bring up the previous said crates and help the economy. On top of that, the UI must reflect accurate, up-to-date pricing before players haul cargo halfway across the world to discover the numbers lied to them. Now, those are two systems out of a slew of systems that are currently functioning pretty well. Beyond those, Ashes of Creation still needs additional long-term engagement system. I've said this many times and I'll continue to say it. Some form of honor point and realm rank system would be a massive win. Titles are nice, but players also need tangible rewards tied to PvP participation. This shouldn't promote just random ganking, but rather structured PvP activities, i.e. caravans or open sea fishing, castle sieges, guild wars, and the Harbinger system. Citizenship is another area in my mind that needs more weight to it. Being a citizen should actually mean something. If someone hijacks a caravan, say near Jova, that player should be able to call for help in Jova's citizen chat. Not everyone has a 300-player guild ready to respond, and rewarding citizens who come to each other's aid with possibly script or PvP currency would help strengthen the community identity. Over time, players would naturally gravitate toward those nodes who help support and protect their citizen rather than exploiting them. The Harbinger system in its current state has, well, let's just say, it's been a disappointment. And I fully believe that Intrepid realizes that and is working hard to remedy that. That said, the concept of it is very strong. The idea that if players are going to fail to act, the Ancients could possibly reclaim Vera is pretty compelling in its own right. Once the system is fully realized, it could serve as a powerful in-game loop and potentially replace the need for your traditional instance dungeon grinding entirely. Then we have the castle system, which I'm pretty sure that most Steam players aren't even aware even is a thing. I participated in the castle battles before in Alpha 1, and they were some of the most epic experiences Ashes of Creation has offered in the Alpha to date. While I'm not fully sold on the current implementation plans, I'm going to reserve judgment until we see them in action. Castles will undeniably be in-game content. Guilds are going to be fighting fiercely for control. They're going to want the influence and the regional dominance. A brief overview of the castle system for those players who are not aware. Basically, they're going to have to go ahead and clear very high-level NPC defenders and take over the island and the castle. You're going to have to manage sieges, you're going to have to coordinate logistics like taxes, you're going to have to hold that territory, and all this combined is definitely going to be an in-game loop. These are some of the systems that we have available now, and some systems that we can expect on the horizon, I'd say within the next 6 months to start to evolve. The foundation for a lot of stuff is there. The real question is what comes next and what do you as the player want to see? What in-game loops will keep you logging in day after day? What systems would make Ashes of Creation feel alive after Leveling Rush fades? Let me know in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious, and if you've got any great ideas, put them out there. With that being said, while in-game loops are extremely important for player engagement, it's imperative to remember that Ashes of Creation is fundamentally a sandbox MMO. Not every moment of fun is meant to be delivered through a system or a checklist. Sandbox MMOs are meant for players to use their own imagination. Come up with your own content. That might mean simply going down and hunting down a fisherman and stealing his haul, or spending your days gathering rare materials to craft that high-end weapon that you really wanted, or experimenting with professions until you find one that you truly love. Once you do, mastering that profession can certainly become an in-game all on its own. And And Ashes of Creation is massive. Explore the world. I mean, really explore it. Vera has more to offer than what's immediately obvious, but only if you're willing to take the time to find it. And one last reminder, I'm going to let you know that I'm going to be attempting to stream again if my internet would behave itself. Intrepid has informed us that they will be giving us content creators some cosmetic codes to give away. So if you haven't subscribed on YouTube or Twitch, now would be a good time to smash that button so you will know what's happening and when I'm giving those away. Thanks for watching, everybody, and as always, may your caravans find safe passage. Take care, Vera.